Hey friends, there's a blizzard in the forecast for Chicago, which means it is time to pull out my elderberry syrup and all kinds of other good immune supports for our family. You know, there's a big question of should you just go get different supplements off the shelf or order them online, or should you make them yourself in your own kitchen or your own herbal studio? Spoiler alert, I think you can do both. I think there's some really good brands out there as long as you look at the ingredients and you really check to make sure it's a high quality supplement, but it's also really satisfying and fun and has some benefits to making your own. So what are some of the problems of just going and picking one off the shelf? Well, when it comes to supplements, there's a lot of different variety in the quality of the supplements. So for example, when it comes to elderberry syrup, consumerlab.com, which is a great site, I encourage you to sign up and get a membership in it. It's, I don't know, like $20 for your subscription. So what they do is they take 20 or so different products that are out there on the market and test them. And they test them to see, number one, does the supplement have what it's supposed to have in it? And number two, does it have any toxins or heavy metals or other kinds of things? And what Consumer Lab found in doing their recent testing was that there was a 2,000-fold difference in the amount of this active phenol compound that's called anthocyanin. So the anthocyanin and anthocyanide, they're what give berries that like dark blue, purple color, but they're also really good for the immune system. They can have antimicrobial properties, anti-inflammatory properties, support the development of the cells and the chemicals that we need to fight infection. And so a 2,000-fold difference in an off-the-shelf product is like huge. So that's number one, is that, yes, you can absolutely get good products, good brands, but you need to do your research. The other major reason is that you can get much better quality. You can make sure everything's organic in what you're using, that it's fresh, and that there's no just added junk in there. So for example, one of the most popular brands that is out there and one that's been tested a lot, the first ingredient besides the berries is glucose syrup. And that doesn't sound too appetizing to me. Like, I would rather use something like local honey as a natural sweetener, which may have some added nutritional benefits. And of course, the third is that it's fun and it's a great thing to do with kids. I started making herbal things with my kids when they were like, 5 or 6 years old, and it's fun for them to do the cooking, and then they're more likely to take it too. So those are three good reasons why I think it is a fun and beneficial thing to make your own elderberry syrup. But again, if you are going to get one off the shelf, then make sure you look at a good resource like consumerlab.com, or you talk to your integrative doctor or naturopath or herbalist to make sure you're getting the right amount and taking the right dose. So if you want to take elderberry syrup, there's a few things to know. One is the type you want to get is Sambucus nigra. That's the black elderberry. It's been used for hundreds or more years to treat things holistically. And of course, it comes from a plant. It is the berry. It's been used and studied in a lot of different things, from wounds to colds and flu. And when it comes to the cold and flu, which is why most people take it, or especially in the winter time, the evidence is pretty, decent for taking it at the start of a cold or flu, that it may shorten the duration and shorten the severity of an infection. In terms of prevention, like taking it on a regular basis to try to prevent the onset of cold or flu, that's a little more iffy. I will say, I like to do it is oftentimes recommended to just take like a teaspoon a day as a nutritive, as like a prophylactic. But certainly when you're starting to feel like you're getting a cold or a flu or COVID or anything like that, you want to start taking it right at the start of those symptoms and keep taking it until you're better. So there's three cautions to be aware of. One, you don't want to take elderberries in their raw, uncooked form. And that's because when they're not cooked, they contain a compound similar to cyanide, which is, as you might guess, not health promoting. The second thing is that for women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, I also don't recommend it. It hasn't really been studied and we don't know about the safety, so I'd stay away from it there. And the third thing is that if you're somebody who has an autoimmune disease, anytime we talk about syrups or supplements that help to boost the immune system, support the immune system. You have to be a little careful because with an autoimmune condition, you may already be in a hyperactive state, and in that case, you really may be better off steering away from certain supplements that can trigger an increase in that autoimmune. So just 3 cautions to be aware of, but in general, for everybody else, really safe to use, safe for kids to use, although in a smaller amount than adults, and a nice thing to have over the winter. So with that, let's get cooking. When making elderberry syrup or any herbal syrup, really, what you do is you start by making an herbal decoction, and then you add an equal amount of honey or a sweetener and mix them together, and that makes your herbal syrup. So that's basically what an herbal syrup is. What's a decoction? Well, decoction is it's like a strongly brewed infusion, herbal infusion. And an herbal infusion is just a tea. Usually when we're making a decoction, we're gonna do a longer heating of it. And that's because when we're breaking down, rather than like the leaves and flowers of a plant, when we're doing the berries or the roots, we want a longer amount of time so that the volatile oils can come out and other active ingredients get really concentrated into the liquid. And so that's really what we're gonna do. So for our mise-en-place, it's really, if you want it to be super, super basic, all you would need is water, the elderberries, and honey. Like, that's it. Now, I like to spice it up a little bit, and you can do so many different variants of this. But the basic things you need are water. We're gonna start with 3 cups of filtered water. You need your dried elderberries. So I get my organic whole elderberries from a few different companies, but you can get them through Mountain Rose Herbs, Frontier Herbs. I'll put some resources down below. So we're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of, so good smelling, the elderberries. And I like to also add, for again, more immune support, this is organic echinacea, and this is echinacea roots, little earthy smelling. And for that, we're gonna use about 1/4 of a cup of that. And I love the aroma and the added benefit of cinnamon, so I'll get a few cinnamon sticks in. Ginger, of course, my favorite. I use it all the time. And then finally, some local honey. And I like to have it all measured out ahead of time before going. In terms of the equipment that you need, it's pretty basic. You need a pot with a lid, this is just a stainless steel pot, strainer with some cheesecloth, and only about a square foot, so not too much. A spoon to kind of mush things out, your measuring cups, and a cutting board, and a knife if you're gonna use ginger. That's pretty much it. It's pretty easy. So we're gonna start by making the decoction, and to do that, you always wanna start a decoction with cold water. So we'll put the cold water in a pot, and then we're going to combine all of the herbs with that. So that's our elderberries. I'm gonna put in the echinacea, put in my cinnamon, and my ginger. So we want to put basically all of the ingredients in except for the honey. And after you've got everything in the pot, you're going to put it on the stove and bring it to a boil. And after it boils, reduce the heat and just cover it and let it simmer for 30 to 45 minutes. And what we're going to be looking for is a reduction by about half of the amount of liquid that's in here. So I'm going to go put this on the stove and boil it up. So now our decoction has boiled down to about half what it started, so it's been reduced. And I removed it from the stove, just put it on the counter. And we're gonna start by mashing the berries into the liquid mixture to get everything out. And then having done that, I'm gonna take a bowl. We've got our cheesecloth and a mesh strainer, and just gonna pour it into the strainer. And again, just gonna mush this through so all of the liquid comes out. Okay, so you can see we have about a cup here. I'm gonna put it back in, and then we're gonna add our honey. And again, an herbal syrup's about half and half of the liquid and the honey. And if you need to, you can put it back on the stove to help the honey dissolve, but you just want to make sure you don't boil it. And then you can just pour it into your bottles. So there you have it, elderberry syrup. Once you have this bottled up, you can let it cool and put it in the fridge, and it can last there for 3 months through the winter. For dosing, when you feel like you're getting sick, for adults, you want to take about a half to 1 tablespoon every 4 hours as needed, and kids, it's usually a teaspoon every 4 hours. And again, like I said, you could take it a tablespoon preventively every day if you want. So I'm Dr. Melinda Ring, and I hope you enjoyed learning how to make your own elderberry syrup. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and stay tuned for more tips for herbal wellness and culinary medicine, hormone health, all kinds of good stuff to keep you healthy.